and I've got a Revit model and a PDF document here. So you will see that if we look at the version controls, both of these are on version 4. And if we click in, you will see that I've just uploaded some various models this morning into it, each with different changes between the system. So you can click compare versions when you view the version history if you wish. And you can see that you can select 2 versions that we wish to look at, and we can click compare. And what it will do is it will take the documents into the BIM viewer. And this will allow you to select basically a document A, and then we compare it against a document B. So in this instance, you can see that you can select the drop down for the versions, and you can also start to compare the 2D documentation as well. But I'm going to start with the 3D, and I'm going to switch this back, let's say, to version 2, and then we click compare. So this will take the 2 models, and BIM 360 will look and start to track the changes here. So what it does, it brings in this sort of matrix of sort of a traffic light system of green, yellow and red, and what it does is it looks for the changes between the models. So you don't actually need to look at any emails or any title block information with revisions. You can simply do it all within the viewer. And if we look in here, you will see that red has been removed between the 2 versions, and you can tick this overlay so you can overlay the models on top of each other, and you can start to filter down and go through what's happening. So I'm just going to close this down and go back to it. So instead of actually clicking the versions, you can just click the model, and it will do the same principle of taking it in to the BIM viewer. So once you're in here viewing the model, you have the little compare arrows down on the menu bar, so I can click it, and again it's the same principle of going in between the systems. So I'm going to, this case, I'm going to do version 4 against version 3. We click compare, and then we can get the same principle again of the changes visualized between the models. So it'll take a little second to load, and there we have the changes between the models. So if we look down a little bit deeper, you can see that when we look at the stuff that's been modified, so if I, let's say, take this basic wall, when you click it, you get the full properties. So you can actually drill down into the area, so you can actually see the area between version 3, which is 166, and now the area of version 4 is 137. So there's a lot of information. You can do the volume, you can do the length. Now, one of the coolest things is that it does a visualization of the change, and you'll see at the bottom you've got a tab-based system. So I can actually visualize the change, and you can see that the wall length is changing right in front of you. So you've actually seen what the modification has been within that Revit file. That's honestly my favorite bit of this system. It's just really cool, like a little game, and it just shows you what has changed between the systems. You can also look at, when we're reviewing these results, you can turn on the discipline. So if there's any architectural changes, in this case this is a structural model, and you can see structural and any miscellaneous changes that it can't categorize. You can also then filter. So when you click into filter, a really nice little matrix shows where you can actually look at, okay, let's look at the structural framing. What has changed in the structural framing? We go, okay, so we've removed some beams at the front, but you can also see if we look in the middle, you can see that actually there's been 2 new trimming beams added here and here. So if we select this, you can see that this has now been added. If we look at this bit, this is the one that's been modified. So if we click our changes, you can see that when I was in my Revit model, what I did was I just trimmed the beam back. If we look at this change, you can see that that is obviously a new beam that has been added. So it's a really quick, easy way graphically just to track and see what changes have been made, how they've been compared to the model. So if we look at, you've got a flat result, but we also have a hierarchical tree, if that's the right word, and you can see you can actually drill down into the system. See, and it's all color coded. So you can see that all the little changes. So if you get into your head what the green, red and yellow means, you can see you can just start to track down, and then you can click each of the individual items and you can just start to go through and change it. So if we come out of this again, let's do a compare between, let's say, 4 and 1. So we compare again and we go version 1 and then we click. Once it loads, it will take a second or two depending on the changes that you make. And maybe just try version 2 and see if it goes a little bit quicker. There we go. So let's compare 4 and version 2. So you can see there we have something that's been modified. So if we select this floor, which is this one here, you can see that the changes between the floors are the floor openings. So you can see on version 2 there's no floor openings, and then there we have the change floor. So if we look at what's modified only, you will see turn on modified, turn off removed and added. You then get an idea of what's been modified. If we turn everything off, you will see it goes into sort of a grayscale model. If I want to look at, okay, what's been added, and you can see straight away there's a new column here, got some new trimming beams, and then I've upgraded the joist centers on the roof. So really cool, really easy to see. And what you can then do is you can download that change and that information to your desktop, so it'll come down as an Excel. And then you can track the changes there. So you can see that all the IDs and the difference between the information. So if we come back out of the viewer mode, click back into our model, we can also look at what else can we do within compare. So I can click compare again. This time I'm going to go and I'm going to compare the second floor framing view here and the second floor framing view here and see what changes. So we can now track the changes in 2D. So you can see that this has looked at the layout, but it also now knows, okay, what's been removed, what's been added, and what's been modified. So if we go straight away, let's look at what's added. You again see there's the beams that have then been added, and you can track the changes. If we look at what was removed, modified, we can then see our beam, and you can see it does the same principle of visualizing that change. So it doesn't matter whether it's 2D or 3D in Revit, it will look at doing the versions. I've also uploaded some versions of a PDF, and the same principle works for that I've got a compare function. Again, I can look between the different versions, click compare, and even though it's 2D and just from a PDF, you will see you still get the same principle. So we can have a look, we tick on, you can see this is what's version 4, this is what's version 2. So it's not quite as dynamic as the Revit version, but you see you still can track what changes have come. And if we look at, let's go in and look at the 2D design. So if I've got a DWG version, again the same principle can exist where I can click compare, again select documents, and you will see if we turn on our color, you can see the changes that have been made. Now one thing that you can do in here is that you can click the align button, and I can actually start to align these. I was messing about earlier on, so you can see the changes that we can align, and you can move and compare them changes as you wish. You can turn it on and off. So it's just depends on what you have, what way you want to compare it, but there really is no limit to sort of the documentation and tracking these changes and actually starting to visualize the changes. So I can go into a split view and I can still compare, So even if you've got the split mode active, it will still take it in and you can still compare in the system. It will take a second or two to load, but again, you all get the principle. So that's pretty much it. I just wanted to sort of make sure everyone was aware that these features exist as standard. So once we have the different versions, we can just go in and we can just compare and contrast the changes that have been put in to the file. So if you've got 20 revisions on the models, you can compare any of the versions up and down. So that's pretty much it for today. Very quick and easy. I hope you all enjoyed it. Join me again next Friday for surgery number 21, where we will go through and explore some more amazing new features in BIM 360. So goodbye from me. Have a great weekend, and I'll see you all next week.